Good evening. I'm Dan Jones. Welcome to The Messy Truth. Now, look, I don't know about you, but I have, like, emotional whiplash after the last 24 hours in American politics. Last night, I got a chance to watch President Obama's speech, and it was this amazing kind of celebration of American democracy, very uplifting. Then this morning, I wake up to President Trump's first press conference where he's attacking the press and comparing our country to Nazi Germany. So my head is completely still spinning, probably yours is too. But to be honest, I'm actually skeptical of both of these guys for actually very similar reasons. So let me start with Obama. You know, he said goodbye. And that farewell address, it moved millions of people, including myself, to tears again. And I say again because if we're honest, it wasn't the first time. Remember 2004? No black America, no white America, no red states, no blue states, just the United States of America. That was beautiful stuff. And there was hardly a dry eye in the House or in the country. But here we are 12 years later. And the messy truth is this. All the speeches and all the tears did not bring us together. And we now enter 2017 as the divided states of America, divided by region and divided by race. So, the big question, can Donald Trump succeed where Obama failed? Now, he says he wants to be the president for everybody, and that is very, very good. But then he goes and nominates for the Attorney General somebody like Jeff Sessions, who literally is terrifying the entire civil rights community. So I think we might need to accept an even bigger and messier truth. Donald J. Trump cannot heal our deepest wounds. And Barack Obama could not heal our deepest wounds. George W. Bush, William Jefferson Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Ronald Wilson Reagan, none of our presidents has been able to heal these wounds and bring us together. So maybe, just maybe, the politicians can't solve these problems. Maybe we're looking to the wrong people to bridge all these divides and to heal everything. Maybe it's going to be up to we the people to step up ourselves and start fixing this ourselves and start reaching out to each other. And if you think that is true, then I think we are going to have a great show. President Obama last night said we've got to get out of these bubbles. Get out of these different tribes and start talking to people who do not look and sound exactly the way that we do. So I want to introduce you tonight to two amazing people who are doing just that. These are extraordinary people, two people. They're setting an example for all of us. In just a minute, get this, you're going to meet an African-American female progressive champion named Heather McGhee and her new friend, Gary Civitello. They're going to join us on stage, but before they come out here, I want you to see how they first met. Gary called in to a C-SPAN show, and this is what happened.
I'm a white male, and I am prejudiced. And the reason it is something I wasn't taught, but it's kind of something that I learned. I have these different fears, and I don't want my fears to come true. You know, so I try to avoid that, and I come off as being prejudiced, but I just have fears. I don't like to be forced to like people. I like to be led to like people through example, and what can I do to change, you know, to be a better American.
Heather McGhee.
Thank you so much for being honest and for opening up this conversation, because it's simply one of the most important ones we have to have in this country.
Now, since that phone call, Heather and Gary have actually become friends, which is weird, but also awesome, and it makes them, in this context, in this country, heroes. Please give a big welcome to the stage to Heather McGhee and Gary Civitello. Wow. So Heather, I'm going to actually start with you. You know, a lot of people would not have handled that with the grace that you did. What was it in that moment? You could have said, well, why are you, I mean, it could have happened. It could have gone down. Why did you respond with such grace?
You know, honestly, it was something in Gary's voice. You know, I've had my share of racist rants and call-in shows, but I could tell that he wasn't angry. He was afraid. And the way he ended his question, asking how to be a better American. And honestly, I don't think there is anything more important for us to truly walk into this destiny we're having as a country, where there is soon going to be no dominant race, than for us to all actually face our fears and prejudices. So it was the most important question he could have asked, and I had to reach out a hand.
Well, it was beautiful to watch. I think 10+ million people have seen it online. How has your life changed? You know, you have tremendous courage. You reached out. What's happened since then?
Well, I've been doing a different kind of practice and different approach to things. I actually had to start picking up a book and start to read things that are just kind of taken for granted from people.
What book? What are some of the books?
I grabbed a whole bunch of books.
You got the library after that.
You could actually...
Cornel West.
Cornel West. I'm a big fan of his. And, but there's plenty of books on the shelves. I just picked a bunch up and I just started reading.
Well, how? I mean, listen. How have your friends been reacting? Because I would imagine that you have a set of friends who probably don't have a bunch of civil rights leaders and progressive leaders as their friends. How have your friends been reacting?
I think they're like a little curious. I think they're wondering what what have I got myself into. You know, I just have a few friends I can count on my hand, actually, and I don't make a big thing about it. I told them I was, doing this thing, and that I had this new friend here who kind of mentors me, and it wasn't like a long time ago, but I was having different kind of conversations with them.
Well, on the one hand, you're mentoring him, but President Obama said last night we all have to get out of our liberal bubbles and our conservative bubbles. What has this meant for you? Have there been prejudices that you had or presumptions that you made that you've been challenged by, and what have you learned?
I think that the thing that is beautiful about living in this absurdly diverse country of ours is that everyone's story is amazing. And getting to know Gary and his story and what he's overcome in his own life has blown open some stereotypes for me. I think, I don't want to be public with things that have been conversations as we've gotten to know each other, but just some of the things that we think of as only experiences in certain parts of the country, as only experiences that people have when they're come from the inner city, are actually ones that people have, from all over the country, and that a white working class rural guy, in a Republican state could have had those experiences as well.
It's funny that you mentioned, the inner city and that kind of thing. There's a young man here who I actually want to go to. His name is Malachi, and he, President Obama said we need to be getting out there, being more active. This young man has been active, fighting on some of these very issues. Give a round of applause to this young brother, Malachi. Now, I just want to brag on this young brother. He has been a part of President Obama's My Brother's Keeper program, trying to get urban youth out of trouble, get them opportunities, and he has a question he wants to address to you.
Yes. So, I'm a freshman at Northeastern University. Thank you. I'm a youth advocate, and then so my question is, having grown up in the tough areas of Boston, more specifically Dorchester, I saw a lot of adversities growing up, and now that I'm a first generation in college, it was difficult at times, to kind of do all those things in a low income environment, but thanks to My Brother's Keeper, President Barack Obama's initiative, my success has come this far. But my question to you is, what do you think, or what do you think the new administration should bring or will bring to America, and what can they do for youth in particular, with young men who look like me, you know, who come from low-income communities or may not attend the best schooling. So what do you think should happen on that end?
Well, before you answer, I do want to say something. You're talking about the new administration. I could tell you got maybe some concern. But I will say this. Your life, you know, you've had Obama almost your whole life. Most of the time, the president is not African American, okay? Normally, that's not how it is. And so we've had, you know, all kind of presidents. We've been able to make progress under all kind of presidents. What do you think we can do in this new situation?
Well, I think one of the things that we know for sure, and actually that President Obama probably would say immediately, is that the president can provide a platform and a bully pulpit, but My Brother's Keeper, for example, was lifting up initiatives all over the country that in many ways were already happening. So it's going to depend on us. Next week, on the 17th, there's a National Day of Racial Healing around this effort that the Kellogg Foundation is doing, that Demos and other organizations are involved in, to have conversations like what Gary and I are having in communities across the country. So we're going to have to do it in our local communities, start from the grassroots, and we may not have a president who's going to lift up conversations like Gary's in mind, but we have to do it anyway.
Well, listen, I want to, first of all, give a round of applause to the young man for standing up. National television, been doing great work. I also want to thank both of you. You know, if everybody just had the courage that you had to make a confession, that you had to be gracious about it, I think most of our problems would go away. So I want to thank you both very much. And next up, we are going to break down the messy truth with a former presidential candidate, Carly Fiorina. She's going to be taking some tough questions from the audience and from me when we get back.